What would you say if a cop smiled at you and asked, "Where are you headed tonight?" That question sounds harmless, but your answer can open the door to more questions, more delay, and even a search. The worst part is you can give away your rights before you even realize the stop changed. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could save you from saying one sentence you can never take back. Like this video too, because when your heart is racing on the side of the road, you need these lines stuck in your head. Here's the reality. A lot of traffic stops stop being about speeding in the first 30 seconds. They turn into fishing trips. The officer starts with simple questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you going? Whose car is this? You don't have anything illegal in here, right? Most people have no idea those questions are not random small talk. They are designed to test your nerves, lock you into a story, and build a reason to keep digging. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the pattern is always the same. First comes a casual question, then comes a second question to see if your story shifts, then comes consent, then comes the search. In this video, you're going to learn the exact line that tells you whether the stop is still active, the exact sentence that blocks consent searches, the exact words that shut down self-snitching, and the one response that keeps you safe if they order you out. If you drive, this matters to you. Let's talk about why this gets people in trouble so fast. You get pulled over. Your brain jumps straight into panic mode. You want to look friendly. You want the officer to like you. So you start talking. You explain where you were. You explain why you were in a hurry. You explain why your friend borrowed the car last week. Now you think you're helping, but you're really giving the officer free material to compare, question, and stretch. Here's the reality. The stop only needs to be about the traffic issue unless something else gives the officer a legal reason to go further. But drivers talk their way into that something else every single day. A shaky answer becomes suspicion. A changed detail becomes suspicion. A joke becomes suspicion. And then what started as a broken taillight becomes 20 minutes on the curb with backup arriving. Let me show you exactly how to stop that spiral before it starts. The first thing you need is the line that forces the moment to become clear. When the officer is done checking your documents, or the stop starts drifting into extra questions, you ask this. Officer, am I being detained, or am I free to leave? Those exact words. Say them calmly. Say them once, then be quiet. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. That question does two powerful things at the same time. First, it forces the officer to make a choice. Either the stop is still active for a real legal reason, or it should be ending. Second, it stops you from guessing. A lot of drivers sit there confused because the officer returned their license but keeps chatting. That chat is where people get trapped. Ohio v's Robinette is the big case here. In plain English, the Supreme Court said police do not have to tell you that you're free to go before asking for consent to search. Read that again in your head. They do not have to warn you. That means if you wait for the magic words, you may wait forever. That's why you ask the question yourself. Then Rodriguez versus United States makes the next part clear. In plain English, once the job of the traffic stop is done, police cannot drag it out just to look for other crimes unless they have a new legal reason. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. So when you ask, am I being detained or am I free to leave? You are not being rude. This is 100% legal. You are asking the officer to define the stop. Bad way. Most drivers say, no, I'm good, just trying to get home. Then the officer keeps talking, keeps probing, and the stop drags on. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave? Then the officer has to either end the stop or explain why it is still going. Watch what happens when you do this right. If the officer says you're free to leave, you leave. No extra chat, no nervous laughing, no, I don't mind if you ask me a few more questions. You leave. If the officer says you're being detained, now you know the stop is still active and you stop volunteering. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it changes the whole tone. It makes the stop procedural instead of personal. And yes, timing matters. Don't blurt it out while the officer is asking for your license. Give the basic required documents. Stay calm. Then, when the stop starts drifting, use the line. That one sentence can stop the fake casual phase before it turns into a bigger problem. Still watching? Good. Drop a comment and tell me if you've ever had a stop where the officer kept talking after giving your license back, because that moment catches almost everybody. Now let's get to the line that protects your car, your bags, and everything inside. If the officer asks to search or says, you don't mind if I take a quick look, right? You say this, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. Memorize that line. Do not say maybe. Do not say I'd rather not. Do not say why. Do not argue. Do not explain. You give a clean no. The reason this matters is simple. Once you consent, the game changes fast. Schneckloth versus Bustamante says police do not have to tell you that you can refuse consent. Let that sink in. They can ask in a calm voice with lights flashing behind you, and if you say yes, a court can still call that voluntary. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it draws a bright line. You did not agree, you did not help, you did not open the door, and Florida v. Gimeno makes the danger even bigger. In plain English, if you give general consent to search your car, that can include containers inside the car if a normal person would think the item could be hidden there. So when you say, sure, go ahead, you're not just talking about the seats. You may be giving access to backpacks, boxes, bags, and more. That one lazy yes can turn a quick look into a full tear-through. Bad way. Most drivers say, I guess that's fine, I don't have anything. Then the officer starts opening bags, moving things around, and finding anything they can use against you. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer must rely on some other legal reason, not your permission. Now listen carefully. Refusing consent does not mean you physically block anything. You do not reach across the car, you do not grab your stuff, you do not argue on the shoulder. You simply state your position clearly. If the officer searches anyway, your refusal may matter later in court. If you say yes, you just made that fight much harder. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection during the consent stage. Let me show you exactly why this line is so strong. Consent is easy for police because it skips a huge legal fight. You're no-puts that fight back where it belongs. It does not make you guilty. It does not create probable cause by itself. It simply keeps you from helping the search happen. This is 100% legal. You can be respectful and still refuse. Say it once, say it clearly, then stop talking. The third tactic may be the most important one in the whole video because it stops you from talking yourself into trouble. If the officer starts asking things that have nothing to do with your documents or the traffic issue, you say this: I am invoking my right to remain silent. Those exact words. Then you stay silent. Listen closely because this is critical. A lot of people think silence protects them automatically. Not always. Salinas v. Texas is the case you need to know. In plain English, the Supreme Court said that in a non-custody setting, just going quiet may not be enough. You may need to clearly say that you are using your right. That is why your words matter here. You do not just stare. You do not mumble. You say the line out loud. Now add Berkmer v. McCarty. In plain English, a normal roadside traffic stop is usually not treated like full custody for Miranda right away. That means you should not wait for a TV moment where someone reads you rights. By the time you hear that, you may already have said too much. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. So if the officer asks, "Where are you coming from? Have you been drinking?" Or, "Is there anything in the car I should know about?" and you do not want to answer, use the line. Bad way. Most drivers say, "No, nothing at all. I'm just coming from my cousin's place. Well, actually my friend's house." Then the officer hears the change, marks you as nervous, and keeps digging. Good way. Smart drivers say, "I am invoking my right to remain silent." Then they stop feeding the officer new details to test, twist, or compare. Now be smart here. You still provide your license, registration, and insurance if required. In some places, if you are lawfully detained, you may also have to identify yourself. Hebel makes that clear in stop and identify situations. But beyond the basic legal stuff, you do not need to give a running story of your night. That is where people get crushed. One answer leads to five more. Five more leads to, your story isn't adding up. Then the officer says your nervous behavior gave them concern. Watch what happens when drivers keep trying to sound innocent. They talk more, not less. They dig the hole deeper. Former police officers have confirmed this works because it changes the officer's information flow. You are no longer giving free clues. And no, using your rights is not an admission of guilt. It is how you protect yourself when every word can be misunderstood later. If the stop is truly just about a broken light, your silence does not change that. But if the officer is fishing, your silence cuts off the bait. Most people already clicked away. If you're still here, you're in the top 10% of drivers. Drop a comment saying I'm still here, because the next part is where a lot of people accidentally turn a simple stop into a full car investigation. Now let's talk about the moment people get wrong because they think refusing everything means refusing lawful orders. If the officer tells you to step out of the car, you do not fight that on the roadside. You say this: "I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches." That line keeps you safe and keeps your rights clear. Pennsylvania v. Mims is the reason. In plain English, during a lawful traffic stop, an officer can order the driver out of the car. That means this is not the hill to die on. If you refuse a lawful exit order, you raise the tension fast. The officer now sees you as non-compliant. That can lead to force, handcuffs, and a much uglier scene. So you separate the issues. You comply with the order to step out. You do not consent to anything extra. Bad way. Most drivers say, "No, I'm not getting out unless you tell me why." Then the stop escalates, voices get louder, and now the officer has a compliance issue too. Good way. Smart drivers say, I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches. Then they comply without giving up anything extra. This matters because cops often use movement to create opportunity. Once you are out, they keep asking questions. They look back into the car. They wait for a dog. They ask again for consent. If you do not keep your language clear, your calm compliance gets mistaken for cooperation with everything. Your line fixes that. It tells the officer, and later any judge, that you followed the order but never agreed to a search. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and this pattern shows up constantly. Drivers either resist the wrong thing or consent to the wrong thing. You want neither. You want calm, clean, narrow compliance. Hands visible, no sudden moves, no roadside debate class, just the right sentence. I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows you were reasonable, calm, and clear. That matters. And if the officer keeps pushing with friendly language, go back to your earlier tools. Ask if you are being detained or free to leave. Refuse consent. Invoke silence. These tactics work together. One by itself helps. All of them together protect you a lot more. So what is the legal backbone behind all of this? Let's make it simple. Rodriguez v. United States says, a traffic stop cannot be stretched out just to investigate something else unless police get a new legal reason. That is why your question about detention matters. Ohio v. Robinette says police do not have to tell you that you are free to go before asking for consent. That is why you cannot sit there waiting for a warning label. Schneckloth v. Bustamante says police do not have to inform you that you can refuse a search. That is why your refusal has to come from you, not from them. Florida v. Gimeno says if you do consent, the search can go wider than most drivers expect. And Pennsylvania v. Mims says officers can order you out during a lawful stop. So comply with that order, but keep your rights clear. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings, and legal experts agree this is your strongest protection. You are not trying to win a courtroom debate on the shoulder. You are trying to avoid giving away what the law already gives you. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life. You get pulled over for rolling through a stop sign. The officer walks up and asks for license and registration. Then comes the friendly voice. Where are you coming from tonight? Most drivers answer right away. Just my friend's place. Then the officer asks, which friend? Now the driver adds more details. Well, my cousin was there too. Then the officer says, you mind if I take a quick look in the car? The driver laughs nervously. Sure, I don't have anything. Now bags get opened. The stop gets longer. Backup arrives. The driver is standing on the curb wondering how a stop sign became this mess. Now watch the right way. You hand over the required documents. You stay calm. You keep your hands where they can be seen. The officer asks where you are coming from. You say, I am invoking my right to remain silent. If the officer finishes the document check but keeps probing, you ask, Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave? If the officer asks to search, you say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches. If the officer orders you out, you say, I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches. That is it. No speeches, no sarcasm, no fighting, no volunteering. Watch what happens. In the wrong version, you keep expanding the stop with your own mouth. In the right version, you stop doing the officer's job for them. You force the stop to stay tight, lawful, and limited unless they already have some real legal basis to go further. That does not guarantee nothing bad happens. It does mean you stopped handing them free evidence, free consent, and free contradictions, and that can change everything later. Next video, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe right now so you do not miss it, because that one excuse gets used to justify searches all the time, and most drivers have no plan when they hear it. So lock these in your head right now. First ask, Officer, am I being detained or am I free to leave when the stop starts drifting? Second, say, Officer, I do not consent to any searches anytime they ask to look. Third, say, I am invoking my right to remain silent before simple questions turn into self-snitching. Fourth, if they order you out, comply calmly and say, I will step out, but I do not consent to any searches. You do not need to be rude. You do not need to be loud. You just need to be clear. Hit subscribe so you catch that weed smell video next. Smash that like button if this changed how you see traffic stops. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.